Hi, I'm Gailmarie Pahmeier, and I am absolutely honored and delighted to be asked again to join y'all for the Las Vegas Book Festival. I want to start by thanking the humanities, the Nevada Humanities, for this opportunity. The city of Las Vegas, particularly Jonathan Meza, who has been particularly patient with me as I'm trying to learn this new world and this new way of presenting to an audience. And then without Bobby Ann Howell, some of this would not have been even conceived. So I really send out my grateful thanks and best wishes to you all. I've been asked here to talk about and read from my new collection, which is Of Bone, of Ash, of Ordinary Saints, a Nevada Gospel. And I think I'm just going to jump in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit and talk a little bit. And hopefully our time together will be somewhat pleasant. Okay. I know this whole Zoom world is tough for everybody. All right. I'm going to start at the very beginning, actually, because this particular poem is set in Las Vegas. So this is for y'all. First Saint Sighting, Las Vegas, 1969. We'd saved for the promise of Disneyland, first family trip outside of Missouri, long days in the hot car, treats of gum and grilled cheese at truck stops. So much to look forward to, our new shoes, our hair bows. But California's covenant of ease, of dappled dreamland, startled and unsettled. The relentless madness of spinning teacups, our scuffed patent leather shoes blistering our feet, and the heat. I took refuge in the tiki room, then the auditorium with the Lincoln robot, the quiet magic of the nearly real man. Spent most of my savings in air-cooled shops. These graces were enough. Homebound, Las Vegas. Our father played poker, his one indulgence, a few hours in a dark and temperate casino. We girls walked Fremont Street with our mother, gazed into windows. So much, such shine. And then I saw it, the slender black cigarette holder, silver mouthpiece. Imagined the hands who'd hold this. While my sisters twirled under the neon, I slipped into the shop, asked how much. $5. I had closer to $3. When the clerk asked why I wanted this, I pointed toward my mother, smoking on the corner in her faded green capris, tight turtleneck, her face tired, unmade. The clerk reached into the window, pulled the holder from its dusty display stand. Our hands touched. Close enough, honey, she said. And that was my very first experience in the state of Nevada. And it was fast forward to 1984 when I actually moved here and set down roots and now proudly identify as a Nevadan. Let me talk a little bit about how this project came to be. And first, I have to thank my husband, without whom, okay, pretty much nothing happens around here. I could barely turn on the computer this morning. But anyway, Don officially retired from his design build business, I don't know, about a decade ago. And, you know, working outside for for so long, I think he really missed that. So he took a seasonal position at Washoe Lake State Park, which is the state park nearest to us in Reno. And he would come home after a day and say, "You're not going to believe what happened at the park today." Or, I met this really interesting family traveling across country and staying at state parks. And I was just so fascinated by these stories. And I thought, this is happening in my backyard. And somebody needs to pay attention to these voices that are both of Nevadans and of people who are here in some way because they need to be in our state or because they're here to celebrate the beauty of our state. So, making this darn long story as short as I can, I decided to apply for the Major Project Fellowship with the Nevada Arts Council. And fortunately, the project was funded. And I do want to give a big shout out to the Nevada Arts Council, particularly Fran Morrow, who at that time was the director of artist services. Without Fran, this too may never have occurred. So it takes a village. I really owe a lot of people who have helped me realize this narrative. So anyway, I got the fellowship, which supported my taking many trips into Nevada state parks and doing 2 to 3 day residencies at each site, and kind of just being an observer and trying to, writers are eavesdroppers, right? You don't want to sit by one in a restaurant. So I eavesdropped, I listened to people, I observed people. So the project is really an act of observation and an act of imagination. But if you're going to do a project like this, and you're going to go into the state parks, one of the first things you're going to need to do is get yourself a trailer. So I'm going to read a piece that's about the trailer. It's called Naming Her. We knew the trailer was a woman. The curvaceous frame, all 13 feet of white, of silver, of red, the color of his mother's lipstick, 1946. Our girl was no vintage beauty, but because her red reminded him of the courage, tenderness, tenacity of the single mother in the long-gone rural town, her shame palpable and hard, we tried the old names first. Mabel, Ethel, Edith and Myrtle, Harriet and Bess, Constance and Florence, Charlene. Nothing fit until we thought of Marilyn, that Marilyn, her time here in Nevada, her fraught performance in the Misfits, that dress in the Dayton scenes, the ripe red cherries patterned against the white, the silvering of her hair in the stark sun of this state. We named the trailer Roslyn. Some of you will know what that last line references. And I'm hoping that I can encourage all of you to learn what that last line references. Roslyn is the character name of Marilyn Monroe's character in John Huston's 1961 film, The Misfits. The Misfits, in the sort of opinion of many, particularly film folk, and I'm not really a film person or scholar of any sort, but in the opinion of many film folk, it is really the quintessential film about a changing Nevada. and a changing American West. So I really think it's quite contemporary, right, in so many ways. Sadly, it was the last film of both Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable. Neither one of them completed another film before their deaths. The story of the making of the Misfits is also hugely engaging. The idea, so Roslyn is the name of our trailer, all right, in honor of the Misfits. And the Misfits kind of carries throughout this collection. It's in 3 sections, and each section begins with a short quote from the Misfits. And I'll just share one of these. And Guido is the name of a character, Rosalind, of course, Marilyn Monroe, and Gay is the name of the Clark Gable character. So this is a little snippet from the Misfits. Guido, have you ever been outside Reno, Ms. Tabor? Rosalind, once I walked to the edge of town. Doesn't look like there's much out there. Gay, everything's there. Like what? The country. Well, what do you do with yourself? Just live. How does anyone just live? You got to imagine that last line in Marilyn's fabulous voice. And that too inspired this collection. All right, how do we just live, particularly in an often misunderstood place, an often misunderstood state? I want to show you another visual connected to the sections. Again, there are 3 sections of the book, and each section begins with an image of the state of Nevada with a bit of text running through the center. The kind of obvious, I guess, but the metaphor here is the heart of Nevada, of course, and it's also about separation and connection. And then also, I mean, it's not literal, but this is about where Highway 50 would run across our state. And as we all know, I'm sure, Highway 50, for primarily the purposes of tourism, many years ago was designated the loneliest road in America. And so what the collection also tries to do is address issues of loneliness, how one functions or survives in a state of loneliness. But I think the collection also tries to affirm a sense of community. So there are some sadnesses, some shadows, and then I also think that there are some real positive things and moments of what I might call distinct light. So, all right, I want to take you on a mini road trip for a few minutes, but I want to tell you that if you're going to write sort of a narrative that travels, all right, that moves through an environment, you got to have a narrative. Well, I did. I guess somebody doesn't have to, everybody doesn't have to, but I felt like I really needed a narrative presence. Or premise, pardon me, a premise. Why are these people doing this besides eavesdropping and barbecuing at a campsite or something like that? And as you might be able to see on the cover, and oh, by the way, I want to also thank WSC Press, and particularly the fabulous Chad Christensen for bringing this into the physical world. But if you can see on the cover, we have this photograph, and the walker is walking her dog. Sorry about lighting. I don't have great light here at home. So the premise for the narrative is that this couple is traveling throughout the state of Nevada to spread the ashes of their beloved dog. So they're going to these parks to leave ashes of their dog, and then they're also venturing a little bit into the surrounding communities. So I'm going to start kind of in my backyard, which means I'm going to start with Washoe Lake State Park. And each park has a piece called Visitor's Guide. And the Visitor's Guide sections use both language I have borrowed, wink, wink, borrowed from the actual brochures available at each park, and then manipulated and added often a type of commentary. So this is called Visitor's Guide, Washoe Lake State Park. The name comes from the tribe, families who spent winters in the lowlands of what is now Washoe Valley. Oregon, Nevada, Illinois, Idaho. Not a single vanity plate. Consider this. When the mining boom was over, the towns around the lake were abandoned. Most who remained turned to ranching, displacing the tribe from the valley. Consider. In the wake of the rapid urbanization of nearby Carson and Reno, the park is a true treasure. Hunting with a shotgun is permitted in specified areas. Where will you go? Where have you been? This park promotes leave no trace outdoor ethics. Leave what you find. Dispose of waste properly. Respect wildlife. Be considerate of others. Consider all the ashes you are asked to carry. Let's take a walk in Washoe Lake, or not in the lake, in the park. Walking the loops at Washoe. Some have certainly settled in, hang clothes newly washed at the pumps, string lines from the trees, socks, shorts, a frilly blouse. Others are more truly there for one night. No tent, no camper, no noise other than the sizzle of supper, the long hiss of wetted charcoal. It's the settlers who surprise, their lawn chairs and little dogs, their private need. You walk so you can know the couple from Idaho who brews their morning coffee in the public bath, loves their fat chihuahua named Snickers for his dark caramel coat and the way he sneers a sort of smile. They arrive each summer in their Crown Vic, set up their tent, see the doctors at the VA. The man's older, took up dying, cancer 3 years ago. Each year he requests an overstay, tells the ranger he wants to die here, holding his wife and his round dog. Doctors, he says, change opinions often, but he's not about to take crap from anybody if he can tell it's crap in time not to take it. His wife has smooth skin and the blackest hair. She brushes and brushes all day. Her smile, like Snickers, curls, is quick. She never speaks. You know the girl who comes in alone, her small red car sparkling in the heat. She unpacks her suitcase, cooks dinner, is careful to kill the coals before she beds. She's lovely, all angles. She makes calls each evening, her voice no more than mere breath. She's gone all day, returns at dusk, begins again to call and call. Does she work in Carson City? Is she waiting for a place to truly park, to take her trunk full of things, a place she can make her now home? On the third night of calls, she suddenly stops moving, quickly clears her camp, dumps ice everywhere. She leaves and doesn't return. You know the middle-aged man in the vintage teardrop trailer, Oregon plates. He's been coming down to see his daughter every summer at her community college in Reno. He's missed her much. She's all he's got besides his trailer and the work he gets some seasons. 3 years ago, he thought of moving here, of becoming Nevadan, of joining her. But the rents got higher, and he can't decide how or where to live. The money's better here. His daughter just graduated, got him on with her at Chewy. They'll share this summer together. Then he's off to pick beets. That's good pay. Good work if you like it hard. You walk to know these stories to tell them. At your own campsite, you'll cook chicken, roast the requisite marshmallow, listen to Johnny and June coming in from the valley, new neighbors setting up, the nostalgic scent of their cigarettes, weighty as your own ash. Man says, after this break, I'll put up the awning. Then after my next break, I'll set out the chairs. You'll sit for hours in your own chair. You know how quickly what passes goes past. I need a little sip of water there, okay? And then also, I'm assuming you're hearing this on this recording. I live near the railroad tracks, practically on top of them. So every now and then you'll hear a Amtrak go by or a big freight train go by. Nothing I can really do about that. And there are trains mentioned in a couple of these pieces. And it's so far, I've not had the experience of being in the middle of one of the train poems, okay, and having the train go by. It's always like when I'm not reading a train poem. And also this morning we had a couple of coyotes running back and forth in front of the house. So you may hear hysterical dog barking in the background. So this is again just part of the world we're living in right now, this Zoom. So I appreciate your patience on all of that. All right, I would like to move to South Fork State Park, which is near Elko and Spring Creek. And the reason I want to move to this particular piece is because there's another thread that runs throughout this collection. And these are pieces or vignettes. Sometimes I just call these vignettes. I don't even call them poems because I was less concerned about some of the more traditional conventions of poetry and more concerned with just the essence of an individual narrative moment. So you can consider these vignettes if you'd like. But some of the vignettes are actually in the voice of a ranger at one of the state parks. And are these true? All right, are these reportage? Not really, okay. I took conversations I'd had with the rangers and I sort of reimagined a context for those conversations. And I want to say also that this project would not have been possible without the support of the incredible rangers who work in the Nevada State Park system. They all deserve a big old raise. So I'm hoping they'll get one. And also I was honest with them. I'm not using any of their names. And sometimes the stories that were told by one ranger really became the story of another ranger. So it's all melded together. But this will give you an idea of that thread. And so we're at South Fork. And the piece is just called South Fork, Ranger Says. Thank you. This is my favorite color of lipstick, a punch of coral, the shade of salmon belly. It's made by Revlon, so you can find it in Walgreens in Elko. Lots of the men I've met here have also noted my makeup, have found it worth mentioning, and they do so with delight. I guess some folks think that if you wear a uniform and work outside here in the fierce wind and unrelenting sun, you'd neglect your face, forego mascara, a splash of scent, leave lips pale and dry. But this is my place, and I honor it. I live in my own trailer, moved between here and Lahontan on a senior pass. Since I work here, I'm not required to buy a pass, but it's only $30, and that's fair. The state's raising the fees next year, so some seniors and vets will hurt, will struggle, especially those who live the life, move from park to park with their dogs, all alone. Oh yes, I know many of them by name. Charlie, Bob, Vernon, Billy, Hank. I always look forward to seeing them, but most have died, most of cancer, and some don't come north anymore, too isolated, too far from doctors. If I had to say, I guess I miss Montana Mike the most. He took to sitting in the sun all day. He didn't look good the last time I saw him. I better get back to work now. Bob pulled in last night, and I want to check on him. You have a good time here, okay? If you make a fire tonight, be careful. This wind carries ash easily and far. Having a lot of trains today. I think somebody called them. We're going to be doing this. It's about moving to the state of Nevada. Let's get as many train sounds as we can possibly get here. Okay. All right. I'm going to do just a couple more and then call it a day here. And I would like to take you south. All right. So for a minute here, take you to south and then maybe end in the middle of the state. So I'm going to do another visitor's guide. And this is Visitor's Guide, Kershaw Ryan State Park. And many of you have probably been there. The nearest town is Caliente, and I had to practice that, Caliente, because I, of course, wanted to say Caliente. Caliente is how it's pronounced in the community. So this is Visitor's Guide, Kershaw Ryan State Park. Early settlers cultivated a garden of grapes, orchards and vegetables for sale to the miners in nearby Pioche. You'll want to meet Herman. He's a retired lineman, has lived in Pioche for 54 years. The kids are grown, and the first thing they did was leave. He's gardened this park for 5 years, keeps the 27-year-old koi alive in the little pond, something wedding parties like to see, will dangle their fingers above the water, reach in to touch. He tends the grapes, the apple, pear, and plum trees. Gardening is a good thing, quiet, and he gets to make beauty, knows each of the 200 plants in the greenhouse. He doesn't know anybody in Pioche anymore. In Kershaw Canyon, horse springs channeled into a trough where wild horses and deer came to water. Mountain lions, bobcats, foxes, and coyotes also frequent this area. Reptiles, too. You'll want to meet Frank. He's the camp host, lives in the park year-round. He's divorced, Originally from California, a family of Masons. His kids live in Dayton now, and it's hard to visit. It's too intense. The stress of traffic and noise. Everything aches. But his shoulders begin to relax on the return trip when he hits Tonopah. It's about feeling safe. Frank keeps a water bowl under his camper, is sometimes visited by a mountain lion he's come to call Shirley. She won't visit if there are campers, only comes to see him. They once shared a lunch of fried chicken. Only days later did he realize what could have happened, the strong stealth of Shirley. But nothing happened, not then, not yet. I am going to close, since I mentioned Highway 50, and I'm going to close with the shortest poem in the entire collection. And I have to show it to you, it's so short. The title is actually 3 lines long, and the poem, the moment, the piece is 1 sentence. So this is where I'll close. And I can't thank you enough for your time and patience. Y'all have been wonderful to support the Las Vegas Book Festival. So here's my long title. Overheard at Middlegate Station, known as the real Old West on Lonely Highway 50, while waiting over an hour for a BLT, surrounded by tourists, clamoring for a table. I thought the map said loveliest road in America. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that. Again, thank you all so much for listening. Thanks again to Nevada Humanities and the City of Las Vegas and the Nevada Arts Council for their support of this particular project. And lastly, I would like to remind everyone, if you're interested in supporting the writers who are participating in this year's virtual edition of the festival, do support them by supporting your local bookstore, your independent local bookstore. Thank you all so much. Take care.